We about ready to roll things, Liz?
Absolutely. Is it 2:10? It's 2:10. There we go.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
And, that was a short break, but welcome back, everybody. And so we have a session for you that we're hoping that you will be able to potentially lift this concept and take it directly into your classroom. So Bruce, Gregoire, and I have put together a presentation. I'm going to give you a bit of an orientation, and then Bruce is going to take over and share with you the step-by-step process of what we're doing. Bruce and I are both on the DMAW board. Bruce has been in the industry for a while. He's with WiseGuys Marketing, and he also has taught these concepts at Johns Hopkins before. So this was all his idea, and I'm just bringing the silliness into it. So what we thought we'd do is take the concept of segmenting that you just heard from Jordana and how they broke their different donor levels into different ask levels. And so we talk to our students in the classroom about segmenting. And I feel like we often kind of just give them this concept of, oh, you've got to segment your market. And what we want to do is give you an example of how that actually works. And segmenting is used for a variety of reasons. It may be used to break down different ask levels. So you're not going to ask your $1,000 donors for $15. It also may, you may actually have different messaging for different segments, or different segments may get mail and not get mail. So these are some of the things that we want to help you with an exercise. And pay attention to what we're doing here, because we're going to put you in breakout rooms and make you do this in a little while. So one of the things I just did was put the exercise in the chat. You are all going to need that in a little while. We've sent it to you a couple of times, but as a professor, I kind of know that maybe you haven't bothered looking at them, but gold stars for those of you who have. We're going to all work through this together. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to try and give you something. And again, we'll be able to give you these slides if you want them. But I often find that students do better if you can relate concepts to something outside of the classroom. What we're actually going to give you here is a business-to-business example of how you use marketing analytics. And so we're going to go fishing, and we're going to relate it to fish. And we're also going to relate this to how to fish for donors or customers. Those customers could be B2B, they could be B2C. This is just an overall concept. And so I live in Ocean City, Maryland in the summertime, and there's a huge, the largest fishing tournament in the world is the White Marlin Open. And it's a pretty high stake game. The buy-in just to enter the fishing tournament is $1,200. And the winner goes home, the most recent winner went home with 1.85 million as a payout. So this is a pretty big fishing tournament. And so if I was going to enter that fishing tournament, I want to know where the fish are. And so there are tools out there that we can use that may help us with where were the fish biting recently? Were there a lot of fish biting recently, or was it a one-off deal? And were they big fish or little fish? And so that's kind of where we're going to go here for the next couple of minutes. And if you will, if you've got questions, put them in the chat, and we'll keep up with them and answer them the best we can. But let's get through the whole exercise and know that this is an exercise that is using dependent variables, and it's an exercise that is making assumptions. And so just follow along with us, and hopefully we can get you to the fish dinner, and then we can talk about how this exercise might be tweaked. So here's where we are. Segment. Why do we segment? Well, I just talked about it. It's different messaging. It's different value to people, and people fish for different reasons. Michael Jordan comes into the White Marlin Open, and I don't think he's ever won it. And there's possibly a reason for that. And that is that he's not necessarily here to catch big fish. He's here to party with the rest of the fishermen who are in town. And I know that my grandfather used to go fishing all the time. And it wasn't about catching fish. It was about getting out of the house so that he didn't have to listen to whatever my grandmother wanted him to do. So we need to be talking to the fishermen who want to catch the big fish one way. We need to talk to the people who are just sneaking out of the house in a different way. And so when it comes to fishing, we want to know where, again, did the fish bite here yesterday? And one of the interesting things about the White Marlin Open is that most of the winners are captained by boats that are local, because those folks have a database. It's up here in their brain. They know where the fish are. They know where the fish are at different times of year. So how do we predict where the big fish are going to be today? And that's what we want to work on and kind of give you an example. Direct marketers need to know this. Jordana was afraid. Do we offer people who give us $5,000? And my sister is one of those people who gives them $5,000. And then, I don't know if you can see it, but this is the goat. And she buys an ark every year. So why would you ask someone who gives you $5,000 for $1,000? So nonprofits are concerned about messaging. They're concerned about segmenting their markets. Commercial businesses are too. And what we're going to offer you is an example. So all of you guys got some jelly beans. And again, they're not showing up on my screen. I have to put them in front of me. So you got some jelly beans. And so Liz and I started looking for what kind of gift could we send to folks that was on theme for our event. And so we're online typing in things, and we find Harry and David, and all we can find is consumer to consumer types of things. But Amy, when we asked her, she pulled up her catalog of things. She's an event coordinator. She buys these things all the time. She had access to things that we didn't. So the example that Bruce and I are going to give you is a database of companies who sell this kind of stuff and put your logo on it. You want a pen with your logo on it? These are the companies that sell that. So this is a business to business example, and we've got some data for you in a minute. So lots of people care. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how we're going to break down this particular market. So you're going to have a database with 160 different purchasers, and we want to know who bought from us most recently. Because if you caught fish in one hole yesterday, it's more likely that they're going to be in that hole again today. So recency is an important thing. What have you done for me recently? Recent donors. One of the things Jordana talked about is they only mail to people who have donated in 0 to 24 months. Recency is important. How frequently do they donate? Are they a monthly donor? Are they a twice a year donor? Those are the next things that we look at. And then we're going to look at monetary value. So again, this model is building on itself because we're going to try and break down into segments. The people who bought from you recently okay, so let's go to donations. People who donated to you recently and who donate to you frequently and who donate to you with a large amount, those are probably your most important people. And those are the people like Amy who need to get your catalog because they buy stuff from you often. They buy stuff that's a more bigger value than what Liz or I was going to be able to spend on what we were doing. So we're individuals, but Amy's company runs a bunch of different events. So these are things that we want to look at, and we're going to make them depend on each other so that we don't have too many segments. Because people who, all right, so maybe my grandfather was in a fishing tournament 40 years ago, and he got a couple of big fish and some small ones. That's not going to be nearly as valuable to, say, Michael Jordan, who thinks he may want to win this fishing tournament this year. So let's look at how we can break down groups of people and decide whether we're going to send a mail and how we talk to them. So traditionally, we use what we're going to do is we're going to rank and score. And so traditionally, we break folks down from 1 to 5 for reach, frequency, and monetary value. We're going to simplify this for our example, and we're going to walk you through how we're going to do an exercise. Why is this important? It's important because if you're going to pay $1,200 to join a fishing tournament, you probably want to catch a fish. And so if you're going to take a risk, like changing up your entire mailing, it's important to know who you want to send these mail pieces to. So the benefits of using this model are that you're hopefully going to increase your likelihood of success and maximize your return. And again, just like Jordana said, what we want to do is always go back to those goals that we set. And if our goal is to raise more money this time or sell more pens this time than last time, we need to be able to go back and measure. And so when does this happen? This happens after you've run your last campaign and you've got your results in. And now we're going to select who do we want to mail to this time. And that way we're going to predict this highest yield. And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you a spreadsheet and walk you through how to do this. So here's your word problem. You can only afford to mail your catalog to 80 of your 160 customers. So this is the catalog that Amy was able to find because she's a big customer, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to break those customers into 32 segments. We're going to start with reach, and then we're going to break down that into 4 segments. We're going to go 1 to 4 in each of the first 2 categories. Then we're going to take the 1s and the 2s and the 3s and the 4s, and we'll break each of those down into their frequency level. And then we're only going to break down the monetary into 2 categories. And we're going to walk you through how to do this. And so this is what we're going to work on in a minute. As you all are in your breakout rooms, I'm going to put up the answer sheet. Sorry, I didn't mean to go back. Let's go previous. I'm going to put up the answer sheet into the chat so you'll have the answers and you can check. But what we're going to do is we're going to break these things down. We're going to decide, you all are going to decide which of these 80 customers you're going to mail to. Then you can check your results. Then we're going to analyze. And then after we do our mailing, we always come back and check back with our goals and check back and validate and recalibrate. Was this what we want to do? So as we send you off, and Bruce is going to explain how to do this, what we're going to ask you to do is, again, pick a spokesperson. Let's use the same system, first letter of first name. And then we want you to think about these things after you've done your work. Is recency always the most important? How else could we segment this group? And is this an exercise that you could use? And so I'm now going to stop. No, I'm not going to. I'm going to switch sharing my screen, and I'm going to turn it over to Bruce. So if you're totally confused, Bruce is going to get you unconfused here. So now I'm going to pull up the document that I just put in the chat for you. And hang on, let's stop sharing and come back to this one. And are you all still seeing my PowerPoint in the background?
No.
Okay. Okay, I am, but I can make, I'll just turn that off. Okay. Okay, so are you seeing a spreadsheet with instructions?
Yes. Yes.
All right,
Paula.
Bruce. You're going to take it from here and explain exactly what we're doing now.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you for that introduction, and Happy New Year to everyone. We're happy to put this together with you. Paula's been so helpful, and I think we both bring different views to how we approach RFM. So Paula, if we can move to the next tab, I'm going to talk about some of the things you spoke about. Paula mentioned we've got 160 customers in this spreadsheet. And they're all in alphabetical order. They are business to business. She mentioned that. So if you look at that first row there, the recency date, you're going to be sorting. We're going to be sorting and scoring 3 different times. We'll explain that, and you've got that in your instructions as well. Some of you maybe have a chance to read this in advance. So let me show you. Let me talk about how we're pivoting a little bit here. We're pivoting from using RFM segments for your messaging and your appeal, if you will, to we're pivoting from what Paula mentioned to scoring to be able to establish who to mail. Let's begin. One of the previous instructors, the previous presentations talked about begin with the end in mind. We're going to also begin with the end in mind, Paula. So we're going to go space all the way over to the right where we go, who to mail. And maybe you can see that on the screen already. So that's column Q. Basically, this is where you come in. You are going to establish, because every organization cannot afford to mail to all their customers. So there's a sweet spot, if you will. Think of what Paula was helping with her secret sauce, with her copy, with her graphics, and using RFM segments. With these 160 customers, we're going to ask you to find the segments and use RFM to establish the segments that you can afford to mail. So in that, the whole, from left to right here, you're going to be sorting and scoring recency, sorting and scoring frequency. So that's the yellow. Sorting and scoring monetary value. That's the green. As you do that, we'll explain how to do that in a minute. As you do that, you will see your scores being added up into the total R plus F plus M column, column P. And obviously high scores are the best. I know a lot of you have taught RFM, know about RFM, read about RFM, and you know that recency is a dominant variable. Frequency, as Paula suggested, is your frequency score will be dependent on your recency score. Well, you'll hear us say that more than once because it's the biggest mistake that marketers make. They try to score recency, frequency, and monetary value independently, and that makes for a crazy quilt of scoring. It's worse than doing RFM at all. It needs to be done. Think of your recency score as the peer group. We're going to, in a minute, we're going to go 4, 3, 2, and 1, 4 being the highest recency. So each of those are like a peer group, and within the peer group, you score the frequency. And then within the recency and frequency scores, you score the monetary value. So I'm hoping that clarifies that a little bit. Again, we've got the instructions for you in the first tab. Paula, let's see if there's anything else we need to speak about before we move ahead to the tab.
I think an important piece is that we've got it color coded for you. So your instructions are in this first tab, and again, they're color coded. And now I'm going to go back to the master. If I can get the...
Good. So one phrase you'll hear me say multiple times is we're looking for the sweet spot. Again, because we can't, within the segment, picking segments to mail. Sweet spot means you're maximizing, Paula used the word maximize your results. It's not getting the most revenue you can, because maximizing your yield means you need to consider what your mailing piece costs or what it costs to mail, obviously. So a lot of you are familiar with that already. So we can't mail 160 people because some of these folks, maybe this first row here, a fellow from Austin, Texas, with an old recency date of 2019, he may not deserve to, in his segment, after we score him, may not deserve to get a mailing because in the past, low recency, frequency, monetary value scores have not generated enough revenues to pay for themselves, pay for the mailings, pay for the production and so forth. So that's the kind of thing that we're looking for. Again, and you will see this as we move left to right here. By the way, here's a tip. This is the only spreadsheet you need to care about. You'll be doing all your scoring within this spreadsheet. So that's important to realize. All right, Paula, let's go to the instructions.
You want to go to the instructions?
Let's do that just so they can, our attendees can see how we're stepping through this. Step one is sorting. And we're sorting on the recency date. So we'll go there in a minute with the data and sorting. Go down a little bit further to frequency. So it's recency, sorting and scoring, frequency, sorting and scoring, monetary value, sorting and scoring. All right, now the reason there's so much text there is because you're going to be doing these in blocks of rows. So let's go ahead and do, Paula, are you ready to do recency?
I'm ready to do this.
You're up for it. You're up
okay,
for
so
it.
we're going to go over here and we're going to sort. We're going to do a custom sort.
You can cancel out of that, I think. Oh, it wants you to highlight the, Paula, it wants you to highlight the entire.
Oh, it wants the whole,
yeah, the whole
spreadsheet.
Yeah, upper left, upper left there will work. There you go. All right, let's try that. There you go.
Okay, we're going to custom sort. And we're going to sort by recency date. And we want newest to oldest, right?
Correct.
Okay.
All right. So now we've sorted, you can see some December 2020, very recent dates there. And this is a primitive exercise your students will have to do. Actually, they enjoy doing this more than they enjoy, believe it or not, listening to me lecture for 3 hours at a time. So I know you understand that if you've taught for very long. Hands-on, and you will go down and have them select the first 40 out of the 160.
So I could keep going, but I'm not going to. You all get to do this in a minute.
Paula, we don't pay her enough to do this, obviously. So you will do this in blocks of 40. The the first 40 get a 4, the second 40 get a 3, the third 40 get a 2, and the third 40 get a 1. Quartiles, if you want to look at it that way. All right. Should we move to frequency? Should we move to frequency?
Yep. And so now we're going to change our sort. We're going to do this again, but now instead of on the date,
you're going to add the level. You're going to add the level.
Right. And then we're going to add another level. So instead of sorting on the date itself, we want to score on what we just entered in here. And now we're going to do frequency. And again, largest to smallest.
Very good. Very nice. All right.
And now we're going to do the first 40, which will be 4s.
Yeah, you want to go to the top. There you go.
Okay. And we're going to do 10 4s, and then 10 3s, and then 10 2s, and then 10 1s, and do it again for each section.
Correct. Beautiful.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you're going to do 10 of those, and then 3s, and then you'll repeat that 4 times. Okay.
Okay, and notice again, we are again a dependent variable situation where we are depending on the recency score to do the frequency scoring.
Oh, got to enter that. Okay, so now we're going to go back again, and we're going to sort and score again. But this time we're going to sort on the recency score, the frequency score, and then we add the monetary value.
Largest to small. Oh, you want to try that again one more time?
Oops, I didn't do it right, did I? Largest to smallest.
You're very close.
And so you all get to make all these mistakes too. And we're going to move this over so we can see the rest of it. And now we're only doing 2s and 4s because it just is simpler. And we do this in groups of 5, correct, Bruce?
That is correct. 4
so
being
4,
the first time. 4,
4, 4, 4, and then 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and then, is that 5 of them? 4, 4.
5. Correct.
Okay, so that's what you're going to do. And then you're going to, the final thing would be to, at the end, you're going to custom sort. You're going to delete all these levels, and you're going to custom sort your total so that the biggest one's ups, and then you got to remember to do it largest to smallest again.
Right.
Okay. And so then once you've done all of them, you're going to decide who to mail.
So it should be straightforward to you with that column P, the RFM scores. The top 80 scores are, in our world, the segments who qualify to get the mailing. And we'll talk about this when you come back from your breakout, but we picked 80 just for convenience. In the real world, what you would do is you would do back testing and validation to establish which RFM levels qualify. Is it 441? Is it 332? Which RFM levels qualify your current database for break even in your next campaign? So presume, for instance, in this campaign, what we're doing now, presume that the 80, if you want to get your students squared away, where did 80 come from? Just presume that 80 came from validating the last campaign that you did. And what you determined is that 50% of your last customer base were profitable, were more than break even, and that's how you defined where 80 should be. So you're always doing, each campaign, you're always looking back and saying, did you score it properly?
Okay, so here's what's going to happen next. Well, I think conceptually, it would help your students to say, okay, so what you've got here is your big fat catalog, and it costs you $15 to print this big fat catalog, and you can't afford to mail that big fat catalog to all 160, but you do want to send it to your top half of your customers. So that's kind of the concept here of not everybody deserves to get the full catalog. There'll be other mailings throughout the year. This is the big fat catalog mailing, and you all need to determine who gets it and why. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put you back in breakout rooms, and we'll be here. If anybody from the breakout rooms has a question, just come on back to the main group, send somebody back to the main group, and we can either come into your room or you can take the answer back to your group. So again, pick a spokesperson, and you may find that it's helpful for one person to have the spreadsheet and everybody else kind of follow the directions and talk through it. You may find that everybody having the spreadsheet open is the easiest way to do this. We're going to give you 20 minutes. And then what we want you to do is think about those questions. Is this an exercise that would work in your classroom? Is this something that makes sense? What were your challenges as you all were working through this? Are these weighted properly? Why did these top people come up to the top? Who were they? So again, look at who the customers are and think about, you've got 32 segments. Who are they? And so have a conversation and come back, and then we'll have about half an hour just to chat about the whole thing. And if you've got questions, holler, and we'll be happy to come help. So Amy, you ready to put people into groups?
I am, and we're going to have 4 total breakouts because I wanted between 5 and 6 people in a session, and I'm going to go ahead and open rooms. So just make sure that you join your room.